Drake spent nearly 2 years teasing and pushing his Iceman era. There was the mysterious posts, the cryptic captions, the repeat posting of a red button, strategic appearances, constant buildup, and people thought this was about to be some massive creative reset after the Kendrick Lamar battle. And instead of coming back with a fully realized Toronto centered project that elevated himself, elevated over your artist, his own city, his own sound, and his own cultural ecosystem, Drake released 3 different albums, and somehow the biggest conversation online immediately became a West Coast sounding record where he samples Mac Dre and appears to be taking shots at Kendrick Lamar and DJ Mustard. That alone says a lot because out of everything Drake could have done after spending almost 2 years setting up this era, the record everybody is debating is the one where he once again attaches himself to another region's culture and aesthetic. And honestly, that is exactly why this song, Too Hard for the Radio, feels so revealing. Because underneath the Mac Dre sample, the Bay Area production, the slick talk, the West Coast references, and the trolling, this record accidentally proves Kendrick Lamar's entire point about Drake, and especially the third verse of Not Like Us. Because this is not just a diss record. I mean, Drake might think this is some type of gotcha moment, but this is another example of Drake attaching himself to another region, another sound, another cultural movement, and attempting to reposition himself at the center of it once it becomes profitable, beneficial, or culturally dominant. And that's why so many people online are confused by the song. Some Drake fans think the shit is hilarious. They think this shit is funny. Some of them think he's trolling. And I think so too. Some think he's proving he still has love in California. And I think that is Drake's end goal. But then there are a lot of people who are, again, genuinely baffled because the record feels so forced. There's calculation, but a lot of miscalculation in an oddly time to do this. And timing is the most important part of this entire conversation as well, especially when you remember everything Kendrick spent the last, 2 years building. Kendrick's post battle run has largely centered around unity. The pop out concert unified different sections of Los Angeles publicly. Bloods, Crips, dancers, Bay artists, LA artists, there's underground acts, new artists, older artists, everybody under one roof. Then there came GNX, where Kendrick continued embracing California culture and specifically showed love to Bay Area influences history. And also before that, there was the Not Like Us music video where he brought the community together, right? So after GNX, there was the Grand National Tour, and there were Mac Dre references as well, more California symbolism, more regional pride. Kendrick's entire movement became about strengthening the West Coast culturally. So, what does Drake decide to do? He suddenly drops a Bay Area inspired record sampling Mac Dre while using Bay Area producers and simultaneously dissing Kendrick and Mustard. Y'all, that is not random. That is intentional. And the details matter. So, why wouldn't I break it down for my cousins? That's what I'm here for. So, Mac Dre is not just some artist Drake randomly sampled because the beat sounded cool. Mac Dre is sacred in Bay culture, a Vallejo legend, a symbol of authenticity and regional identity. So, using that sample during this specific moment immediately turns the song into something bigger than music. Then you look at the producers attached to the record. There's Pilo, there's someone called Kari. I think that's how you say his name. There's Ben 10K, Thomas Madinsky. These are all Bay Area names. They are all Bay Area affiliations, Bay Area through and through. Again, this is not random. This is intentional by Drake because this song is Drake trying to create the perception that California is divided on Kendrick Lamar, despite the fact that Kendrick is doing the Not Like Us video and bringing the community out, doing the pop out, having the GNX features all from California, LA to Bay, wherever on his album. That is the real play happening here with Drake. And honestly, it's also not lost on me that some of these producers, they are Filipino, they are white. These are people outside of Black American culture who may not necessarily feel allegiance to the cultural politics attached to this moment and can more easily identify with someone like Drake as an outsider navigating this space. Because remember, during the pop out, there were other races who said they felt as though they were left out of the pop out, they weren't included. But the funny thing about that is, I remember one of them saying they didn't even know what Juneteenth was for, but they wanted to be a part of the pop out. That's just interesting to me. But I'm not going to harp on that too much. I'm going to stay focused. But again, with these Bay Area producers, they're Filipino, they're white. And that doesn't automatically mean that there was a malicious intent from them, but it absolutely changes the dynamic of how cultural lines are viewed and interpreted. These producers could have genuinely had good intentions. They may have simply just wanted an opportunity to finally be heard or be seen on a larger scale. That's understandable. But weak, thirsty, and starving minds are easy to infiltrate and manipulate without even realizing they are being gamed. And Drake has consistently shown an ability to identify people, sounds, movement, and moment he can strategically attach himself to when it benefits him culturally. And it becomes even more obvious when Drake starts taking shots at Mustard on the record. Mustard heard about us, gotta catch up to the slaps. First of all, ketchup and mustard bars in the big 2026 is crazy. What are we doing? Like, be serious. Then he said, you ain't had one since me and YG rapped, which is objectively false. He's saying that DJ Mustard hasn't had a big hit since the record that he has with YG. Mustard had massive records before Drake and after Drake. There's LMA, who he has a whole Grammy with. He has records with Roddy Ricch, Rihanna, Needed Me, you know, the love of your life, Aubrey. Mustard has a hit record with her. Mustard has had multiple charting hits. In 2014 alone, when that record with YG came out, Mustard was practically running the Billboard chart. So this line is not Drake being factual. This is Drake attempting to just be messy to diminish Kendrick's ally while reopening old California tensions as well. And this is where the history gets important, that a lot of people are just not familiar unless you're from that area, right? Years ago, there were tensions between Mustard and parts of the Bay Area over who was really pioneering this modern California ratchet sound. There was conversations involving Bay Area artists and producers like P-Lo. They became a part of a larger debate surrounding ownership, influence, and who was getting the proper credit for the sound. Those conversations got pretty ugly online. Now, I don't know if they squashed it over time, if they decided to come together. I'm not sure, but it is a simple fact that P-Lo, Mustard, and a few others have clashed with each other. So now Drake inserts himself directly into that fracture point. While Kendrick is trying to unify the West Coast, bring people together, Drake appears to be exploiting old tensions inside of the culture. And again, it is not lost on me that Drake went to Filipino and white producers for this quote unquote West Coast sound, where Kendrick has the pop out, where all of the people are Black on that stage. It is not lost on me that he did that, because that is the type of thing that he does. And honestly, this is exactly what Kendrick was talking about in Not Like Us. The third verse of that song was never just about Drake stealing slang or using accents. Kendrick was talking about Drake's pattern of cultural colonization. finding whatever region, whatever sound, movement, aesthetic, or wave that is hot at the moment and attaching himself to it, absorbing it, then repositioning himself at the center of it as if I did this, I made y'all hot. And it's like we've seen him do it time and time again. Atlanta, dancehall, UK drill, Afro beats in Houston and Memphis, the Bay Area. He just tried an attempt with Bad Bunny in the Latin community, but that shit flopped. But like I said, now he's trying to do that shit with the Bay. The pattern keeps repeating itself consistently. And what makes the situation even stranger is that Drake had a real opportunity here. Granted, it's going to look like he's still copying Kendrick Lamar, but after the battle, after all of the criticism, it would have looked better if he decided to lean into his own identity, lean into his own authenticity. This could have been a moment where Drake fully leaned into Toronto, fully elevated over your artists, fully invested into his own scene, his own city, his own cultural ecosystem. Why Top 5 couldn't get a feature from you, bro? All that hoopla, all that pump faking that he do online for you, you couldn't give Top 5 a feature? No, instead he's still chasing Kendrick's movement. That's what makes this entire thing feel desperate to a lot of people because Kendrick shifted the culture during this battle. He shifted aesthetics, he shifted regional pride, community symbolism, the importance of authenticity and respect. And now Drake feels like he's trying to recreate those moments instead of creating something entirely of his own. And this is not even the first time doing that during this era. There's multiple examples. We watched Drake suddenly start doing cryptic messaging after Kendrick started. Well, Kendrick has always done that. Drake never done that. Even his fans were saying with Kendrick, that shit's corny. They don't want to look at Easter eggs. They want to know right then and right now what is being said. I remember that. I remember them on the timeline saying this nigga is corny because he's cryptic and he uses Easter eggs. Now Drake decides to promote his Iceman. He's going to be cryptic and he's going to have Easter eggs that ended up not even correlating to what it is that he wanted to do in the grand scheme of things. We watched people compare moments from the Nokia music video to Squabble Up and Not Like Us. And now this record feels like another attempt to recreate a West Coast anthem, a West Coast aesthetic, because he saw how powerful and how popular Kendrick's connection to the culture became and how successful Not Like Us and Squabble Up and GNX were. If you look at the fucking music video, the dude is in the music video wearing a Chanel pouch on his hip because he's seen that Kendrick Lamar has a Chanel partnership and he's been the face of Chanel over the last 5 years. Since when do you start wearing Chanel? Maybe I missed it. If I missed it, put me on. But I have never seen Drake flaunt Chanel. And now you're flaunting Chanel in your music videos? It's just very interesting. It seems very destiny swapping. Shout out to ABSA. In the songs, in the lyrics, there's even repeated West Coast references throughout the entire song. Shit, the entire album, basically. There's a lot of West Coast references. He talks about being on the West like the Pac-10. He's shouting out the yachts, talking about how he's got rank, authority, respect, and influence in the yacht. Drake is essentially trying to present himself as someone with standing and credibility in the Bay, somebody that's untouchable, somebody that is stamped, but even there, shit feels fraudulent. You shouting out Antioch while sampling Mac Dre and somehow not even centering Vallejo where he's from. I don't get it. That alone tells me this feels more like a tourism than genuine cultural understanding. Then Drake is using language we have never heard him use before, talking about putting things on Cetus. You don't even know Cetus. Like, what are you talking about saying he make real-time smacks? Aubrey, it slaps. Not smacks, it is slaps. People say music slaps, not smacks. Smacks is usually referring to food. And this is exactly what happens when you attempt to colonize culture instead of organically living in it. Eventually, you start embarrassing yourself because You are mimicking language and movement you don't fully understand. You did the same shit on Family Matters. You did the same exact thing where you telling me some West Coast niggas do fades, right? No, dummy. People don't do fades. Doing a fade is like giving somebody a haircut. Niggas catch fades. They fight. Like, you consistently try to adopt other people's culture, other people's language, and you fuck it up. And what makes it worse is he says slaps correctly a few bars later, meaning that one of those Filipino or white producers that you found from the Bay, they had a chance to correct you immediately, but they didn't. They didn't. Now, again, to be fair, Drake does have Bay ties. He's cool with Mac Dre's mother. I think he was tapped in with HBK for a very long time. I think he took them on tour a couple years ago with the connection with YG and all of that. Like, cool, yeah, you was outside with them. Relationships with Bay artists and producers, that all existed before this moment. Nobody is denying that history. But again, timing matters. Timing matters because this isn't happening in a vacuum. You cannot spend the last year or two being criticized for cultural inauthenticity, lose a battle heavily centered around identity and colonization accusations, watch Kendrick unify California culture, then suddenly lean aggressively into Bay aesthetics and expect people not to question the intentions, especially because the issue is not whether Drake has prior connections. Nobody gives a fuck. The issue is, why is this specific move happening right now? And the irony is, Drake has barely been publicly moving around Los Angeles. I don't believe he's been back to Los Angeles. I believe he sold his home in Los Angeles during this battle. I'm not saying that anybody banned him from LA. Nobody stopped him from coming outside. I mean, I know there's some behind the scenes shit about him doing some shady shit in the streets, but now suddenly you're aggressively performing West Coast anthems and you're talking about your affiliations all over this project. Like, it feels like Drake is trying to say, see, I still have ties to LA. I still can go here. I still have allies. See, I still belong. And this is just his way of trying to combat Kendrick Lamar telling him, you think the Bay gonna let you disrespect Pac? Because instead of genuinely celebrating the Bay, this just sounds like Drake is weaponizing the Bay culture against Kendrick, against Tupac, who he has repeatedly disrespected over the years, putting his music over toilet flushes, buying his old jewelry in cars that appear to be the car that he got killed in. You buying jewelry that are replicas and trying to present them as if they are legit. You have been disrespecting Tupac's legacy consistently, using AI, not even consulting with his estate. That's the issue. And honestly, that's why this record may end up proving Kendrick right more than hurting him. Not might end up, it actually is. It's proving Kendrick right because, once again, Drake is attaching himself to another region's sound and identity instead of fully investing in his own. And at some point, people have to ask, who is Drake creatively when there is no movement left to attach himself to?
Hey cousin, who you chilling with?
I'm chilling with MONIE.